So it finally happened. I gathered all my courage to come out to my parents. And to celebrate that, I want to tell you all my coming out stories so far. Starting from my very first to the most recent. So if you want to know how the outing to my parents went, you have to stay tuned. So I took some notes and wow. Okay, so the first one was kinda dumb. I was like super young, like 15. It was on a friend's birthday. I mean, not really friend-ish. It was a former classmate. And I just casually sat down next to a friend of mine during that time and told her that I was into girls, and that was it. She was like, okay. And that was my first outing. I mean, obviously the first outing is always to yourself, you know, thinking about it, realizing it, coming to terms with yourself, and then saying to yourself, yes, I'm queer as fuck. And so with her being like accepting, I was like, okay, cool. And so it went to the next one, which unfortunately happened on the 1st of April one time, but I made it clear that it was definitely not a joke. And yeah, so I had this, let's just say I had a number on my hand with a heart in it, around it, I mean, and that specific number was related to an element on the periodic table, and just as a little hint, that element is also a Pokemon game. And so I told 2 of my dude friends, like, hey, you know, that number stands for something. And they first thought it was another video game reference. But it wasn't that one. So I went on like, no, and slowly eased them into the message. And what the most fun part was that after I came out to those dude friends of mine, the first reaction from one of them was recommending Mass Effect to me because you can be gay there. So that was pretty fucking awesome, and they were super accepting too. It was super cool. And then there was the outing to my best friend, which was super hilarious. Also, she already kinda knew because she knows me like, wow, like nobody else. And it was so funny because I was like really nervous because during that time people used a lot of gay as an insult, like, oh my god, that homework was so gay. And during that time she was one of them, and I was kind of scared because of that, because of the language she used, but she learned. I told her, hey, that's not okay. I mean, after the coming out, I told her, hey, look, don't use those words to describe bad things. And but it was great. Like, I wrote her a mail on a long dead social media platform and was like, hey, I don't know how to tell you, and so on, you know, the typical insecure coming out message you send to people. And her response was one of the best responses to a coming out I've ever had, because she told me that she'd love me even if I was an octopus with gross pimples on its suction discs. So that's that. That's a lot of love. It's great. I love you, buddy. And then there was another time I was hanging out with a friend group and I never came out to them. But it was a given fact that I am a lesbian. So that was also pretty great. Like, wow. Then there was another friend. She was like, you know, can I ask you something? And I already knew what was coming, because obviously that's the question you get asked when someone carefully approaches you and says, can I ask you something? And I was like, yeah, okay. And so she asked me if I'm into girls, and like, I was like, yeah, why you ask? And she was like, yeah, because of the way you dress and stuff and the way you behave, and I just kind of was worried that if you're not, you're maybe sending the wrong image. And I was like, no, don't worry, it's all right. So that was kind of thoughtful. It was kind of cute. It was pretty nice. It was less awkward than other times people asked me that certain question. But another time it almost gave me a heart attack, because once a girl I had a crush on approached me with the same question. Can I ask you something? And I was like, yeah. And she asked me, are you a lesbian? And I was like, yeah. You? Yeah, me too. I just had a feeling, you know. It was great. Wow, I had such a brutal crush on that girl. Sometimes I think I'm not over her yet. And sometimes I'm just bitter. I'm a mess, okay? So that was another one. And then there was like really awkward situation where a pretty chill classmate, you know, that kind of 420 plays it kind of chill, was like, yeah, can I ask you something? I was like, yeah. And she asked me the same question everyone asks me when they ask me if they can ask me a question. And I was like, yeah. And sometime later, when I started having more contact with another classmate, she asked a question that was kind of inappropriate, because, like, you don't ask that. And even if it was true, I wouldn't answer, because she asked if that classmate I started hanging out with is also gay. You don't do that. Please, people, don't do that. Just because a gay person hangs out with another person suddenly a lot doesn't mean that they are also gay. Don't do that, please. And then there was a time And I talked to my internet friend. If you watch this, you know who I mean. And I don't think I ever came out to her. I mean, it was clear from my Tumblr, obviously. And when we started talking and talking more and more, it also came clear because of my jokes. But like, I think I never really came out to her. I'm gonna do it as a joke. I mean, don't come out as a joke if you're straight. I'm just gonna make a joke about being gay because I am gay. So that's gonna be hilarious. And yeah, so that was that time. And then there was another time that, as far as I assume, actually went south. Because like during my apprenticeship, when we were on like some extra school just from the company, 2 of my classmates offered me a ride home and then were like, can we ask you a question? And my heart started beating like crazy, and it was the usual, you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but you know, when you're trapped in a car, it was really awkward, and they were awkward about actually voicing the question, and by the awkwardness I knew what they were gonna ask, and it was weird. But I told them I first felt pretty good about it because they were pretty positive about it. One even kinda came out as pansexual, but she also made clear that she's straight. She was like, well, I like the person and not the body, but I'm straight. Like, wow. Queer panic alert. And like, but then a new classmate came and it was time for a presentation in English class, and I was like really fucking nervous, and I was like kind of mumbling to myself like, wow, why is my heart beating so fast? And my classmate leaned over and was like, because you fancy the teacher, right? And I was like, yes. And so that, and then later during recess, she asked for clarification if I'm bi or gay, and I was like, no, I only like women. And she was like, okay, cool. So that was nice. It's pretty. And another time I told like another classmate when she was like, we were sitting together and talking, and I was like, wow, I just deleted 1 gigabyte of memories yesterday. And she was like, okay. And I kind of like told her the name of the person, who was a girl, and she was like, what's his name? And I repeated the name, and she was like, what's his name? And I repeated the name again, louder, and added, as in a girl, you know? And she was like, oh, okay. And then she was like kind of cute about like, what's your type and everything. Like, it was kind of cute, you know? Because like she was like, that talk felt so normal, like, wow. That was nice. And then came the coming out to my parents. So buckle up. It was my birthday and I baked a rainbow pancake stack cake. And I was wearing my bandana as a headband and I was sitting there. I'll let him eat. And my mom was like, "Oh, nice, you made it in all colors." And I was like, "Yeah." And then she was like, "Oh, it fits your head thing." And I was like, "Yeah." And after we all ate the cake, I left the room, went outside, got a fence post, and went back inside the living room and waved with it. Just a little information on the side. Waving a fence post is a German idiom and it basically means giving someone a broad hint. So I stood there, waved that fence post, and was like, "What am I doing here?" And my mom was like, "Waving a fence post?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Did I forget something? Should I have noticed something?" And I was like, And that was the moment I first got stuck. Like, I was like, so, you know how you, and so I said, like, you know how you say, let flowers talk? But I don't know a flower that delivers that message. So I baked a cake. And there was confusion on my mom's face. My dad showed no reaction. And I was like, well, maybe you've not. And I stopped because, like, I didn't want to put them into a bad light for not noticing stuff. Even though I was pretty open about it before even coming out. Like, my best friend mentioned it to me, like, you were so obvious, it's a wonder they haven't noticed. And so I tried again and just said, "I'm into women." And my mom made like this look and asked me how I got this idea. And then I said, I just know. I've known for like 10 years and I just wanted to get it off my chest. And she was like, okay. And my dad still said nothing. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna bring the fence post back, and that was it. No real reaction. Nothing. Then topics went on like usual, like remember to take out the trash and stuff, and like that was it. Only that on the next day she said, yeah, but don't tell your grandma that you're into girls because she's too old to understand. That was it. So it went well. It could have been worse. I mean, you hear about bad coming out stories, like people getting beaten or screamed at or kicked out or all that bad shit, and since that didn't happen, I'd say it went pretty fucking well. I mean, no reaction is probably better than a bad reaction. So that's that. And yeah, so I'm finally out to my parents and I feel like a changed person. Wow. I feel like a huge weight is taken off my shoulders and it's amazing. So leave a like if you enjoyed my storytelling. Comment down below. Maybe you have a story to share. Maybe, I don't know. Just tell me what you think. Subscribe if you haven't already, and until I figured out what I can upload next, watch my other stuff. Bye.